Now, the power of hindsight can be incredibly useful, but also very frustrating if you end up investing lots of money in something that isn't quite right for you. This happens a lot when people buy their first set of golf clubs, but to help you buy your first set in complete confidence, here are things I've learned down the years that should mean your first set of clubs is a match made in heaven. And the first thing I wish I knew before I bought my first set of clubs is to not get dragged in by the marketing you see on the television or what you see the world's best players using. Yes, don't get me wrong, drivers that like Rory McIlroy and Jon Rahm are using are absolutely fantastic. They are the best of the best, but if you're buying your first set of clubs, you probably don't need to go straight in at the top end, that premium performance driver coming in well over $500, $600. You probably need to start somewhere a bit lower. And also those drivers are built for very good golfers. If you're just buying your first set, the chances are you're not a very good golfer. You need something that's going to give you much more forgiveness, much more help on those off-centre hits, and therefore trying to follow what the best players are using and copy them in terms of their equipment choices probably isn't the smartest move. So think about buying something that's cheaper, more affordable, more forgiving, and that should get you off to a much better start. The second thing I wish I knew before buying my first set of clubs is that the wedges and putter in the set really matter. I think when you're starting to learn the game, a lot of the focus is on the full swing, trying to get that right, trying to create a swing that allows you to play golf and get around the golf course in a relatively modest number of shots. And obviously, the short game can be a neglected area, but actually, when you start to improve, the short game becomes even more important. You look at some of the best players in the world, their short games are absolutely fantastic, and that's because they spend a lot of time practicing their chipping and their putting. So don't neglect the wedges and the putter in your bag. They will get you out of trouble, they will save you shots around the green, and when you're learning the game, don't just focus on trying to perfect the full swing. Try and dedicate some time to practicing and improving your short game to have a more of a balanced game so that you're competent in the long game and the short game, and that should be a faster way to lower scores. The next thing I wish I knew before I bought my first set of clubs is that a custom fitting is appropriate if it's the route you want to go down. I think there's certainly a case to be made that beginner golfers maybe aren't good enough to be custom fitted. Yes, they're not striking the ball that well, but if you've got a higher budget to play with and maybe you're really serious about improving the game rather than wanting to become more of a casual golfer, I think a custom fitting is a good way of knowing that the clubs in your bag are built for your specifications. Certainly in terms of shaft weight and flex and the type of head that you're using, I think a custom fitting, regardless of how you're hitting it, the fitter should be able to direct you into a particular model that's going to be more suited to your swing, and that can only accelerate your improvement journey. So yes, a custom fitting isn't for everyone, but if you've got a higher budget and a higher appetite for improving, it's well worth trying. Now, the next things I wish I knew before I bought my first set of clubs is to opt for an adjustable driver. It doesn't necessarily need to be brand new. Even if you're buying something that's used, try and look for something that's got an element of adjustability to it. At the very least, adjustability for loft around the hosel area. Let's face it, if you're a beginner golfer, if you're new to the game, you're probably going to be taking lessons, and therefore your swing will be changing over time, and that will influence the kind of launch conditions you experience with your driver. It might alter the spin, the ball flight, and therefore you might need to be able to tweak your driver in order to match up the characteristics of the head with the swing that you're currently implementing. So having an adjustable driver, yes, it might cost you a little bit more in terms of the initial outlay, maybe like £100 or $100, but it's worth it in the end. You're probably not going to have to buy another driver to suit your new swing, so you get more out of the current driver and therefore you get better value out of it. Now, whichever route you go down in terms of investing in your first set, whether it's a half set or a package set, I would definitely recommend paying close attention to the irons within those, because they're probably going to be the part of the bag where you're going to be hitting the bulk of the shots with. And let's face it, if you're a beginner golfer, your swing's probably not going to be as consistent as you want it to be, and therefore with the driver you might start spraying the ball a little bit all over the place and then revert back to the irons to give you a bit more control. So as well as off the tee and approach shots into the greens, you're going to be relying on the performance of the irons through the set. So really pay close attention to those in terms of offering the looks that you like looking down on, the performance, the ball flight, the feel, etc. So really pay close attention to the irons in your set. I think it's going to have the most amount of impact on the performance you experience as a beginner golfer. And the last thing I wish I knew before I bought my first set of clubs is not just to assume that if you're a beginner golfer, you need a certain type of flex of shaft in your clubs, probably a regular flex. You know, there are newcomers to the game, beginners that actually swing the club quite fast and therefore might need something a bit stiffer that's going to give them a bit more control. So definitely be worth, even if you're new to the game but you're thinking about taking it up, try and get some feedback on your swing speed, whether it's you going through a custom fitting or even if you just have a go on someone's launch monitor or go to a top tracer range where it will give you your club head speed with a driver. That's really useful information to be able to take to a professional or someone who works in a retail shop. They can then guide you into the right flex of shaft for your game, regardless of whether it's a package set or a half set or something that's used or brand new. If you know what flex of shaft is going to be best suited to your swing speed, that's really going to help accelerate your improvement, enjoy the game a bit more, and it should improve your results from an earlier stage, and that's going to help you enjoy the game even more. So there you have it. Those are the things I wish I knew before I bought my first set of golf clubs. And if you haven't already bought your first set, I'm hoping you found this video particularly useful in narrowing down your search. And maybe if you have already bought your first set and you've already started your journey in golf, maybe this video has highlighted a couple of areas in your bag that need addressing, and hopefully this should help you improve your game a little bit quicker. But that's all from me, from Peter Wilson Golf Club. I'll see you next time.